Hello and welcome to Most Amazing Top 7. Today, we're diving into a topic that may be uncomfortable to confront, but one that we cannot ignore: the countdown to World War III. As tensions between nations continue to rise and global challenges become more complex, the possibility of a catastrophic conflict looms closer than ever before. In this video, we'll be examining 7 reasons why World War III may happen sooner than we think. From geopolitical shifts to scarcity of resources and climate change, each factor contributes to a perfect storm that could lead to a global catastrophe. So, buckle up and get ready for a thought-provoking and eye-opening discussion on the countdown to World War III. Russia-Ukraine current situation. We don't know yet how the war in Ukraine may end. Despite heavy casualties, neither side is visibly falling apart or appears ready to back down. Both sides are digging in, but as the spring mud dries and the ground hardens, the likelihood of war in Ukraine turning into a global conflict is growing. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said in one of an interview, he also said that Kyiv's partners could send troops to help Ukraine, which is battling against Russian President Vladimir Putin's full-scale invasion. Russia is the aggressor, free to attack or down. In a March 25th announcement, President Vladimir Putin said Russia plans to deploy nuclear missiles to Belarus, along with a missile system capable of carrying the weapons. Ukrainian leaders, meanwhile, framed Putin's decision as a sign of weakness following Russia's struggles on the battlefield. The involvement of powerful nations like Russia and NATO in this global turbulence and chaos raises the possibility of a catastrophic global conflict. A single misstep could ignite the flames of World War III and plunge the entire planet into chaos and destruction. Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons. The looming threat of a nuclear-armed Iran, propelled by the active support of Russia, has become one of the most critical global security issues of our time. The world holds its breath as the Iranian regime races towards nuclear weapons capability, raising the stakes of a potential cataclysmic confrontation. In January of 2023, the UN explained Iran has enough enriched uranium to make several nuclear weapons. While the international community has been closely monitoring Iran's uranium enrichment activities, the land of Aryans remains undeterred in its nuclear ambitions. Adding to the growing alarm is the fact that Iran is already operating a nuclear power reactor and has begun construction on a second massive unit with the help of Russia. Despite previously agreeing to limit its enrichment-related activities, Iran's withdrawal from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action following the U.S. departure in 2018 has resulted in a dangerous escalation. Compounding the danger is the unfortunate reality that more countries than ever before possess nuclear weapons, and cooperation to prevent the spread of these weapons has become increasingly rare. With tensions at an all-time high, the world holds its breath, wondering if and when the next nuclear crisis will occur. The looming threat of a Chinese military attack on Taiwan. Among the key global security questions are how deeply China will help Russia in its aggression against Ukraine, and the NATO, as mighty China planning to launch a military campaign to reunify Taiwan with the mainland on a faster than anticipated schedule between now and 2027, mirroring the bold moves of its dear friend Russia. Given that a Chinese military assault on Taiwan would likely prompt the United States to intervene in support of the island, America based in Okinawa, at the southern end of the Japanese archipelago, is just 600 kilometers from Taiwan. The two islands are part of what American military planners call the First Island Chain, a series of archipelagos and islands, big and small, that stretches from Japan to Malaysia, impeding naval passage from China to the Pacific. Whether by harrying Chinese ships from a distance, or, much less likely, by deploying to Taiwan to help repel a Chinese landing, the Marines will be early participants in any conflict. Once the war begins, it's impossible to get any troops or supplies onto Taiwan, unlike the situation in Ukraine, where the US and its allies have been able to send in troops and supplies during the conflict. Whatever the Taiwanese are going to fight the war with, they have to have that when the war begins. It would be spread far across the region, with devastating consequences for the world. The conflict between China and Taiwan has the potential to trigger a global catastrophe, with the threat of a World War III scenario becoming increasingly real. Scarcity of resources and climate change. Disruptions caused by the Russian Federation's invasion of Ukraine, The ensuing economic sanctions on Russia and its potential retaliation have severely affected global markets. Prices of oil, gas, and certain agricultural products have risen, intensifying inflation issues and threatening food security in some developing economies. Uncertainty also struck markets in relation to metals that are produced in Russia and which are indispensable to supply chains of modern manufacturing production. Aluminum, nickel, palladium, and vanadium are among those raw materials. Moreover, trade in potash, an essential input in fertilizer production, has also been affected. Price hikes and shortages disrupt several industrial applications and severely affect the green transition. The rising sea levels, the extreme weather events, and the resource scarcity are all exacerbating the existing tensions and creating new conflicts over access to water, food, and energy resources. The climate change-induced migration, displacement, and humanitarian crises are also putting a strain on the international system and increasing the risk of conflict. Intensifying climate change will increase the future risk of violent armed conflict within countries. Synthesizing views across experts, the study estimates climate causing shortage of resources has influenced between 3% and 20% of armed conflict risk over the last century, and that the influence will likely increase dramatically. Tensions in Middle East. From the ongoing conflict in the Middle East to the tensions on the Korean Peninsula, the world is witnessing a growing number of crises that could spill over into neighboring regions and beyond. In January 2023, a drone strike hit an advanced weapons production facility in Isfahan, Iran. The Wall Street Journal reported Israel's intelligence agency Mossad was responsible for the attack that targeted an Iranian Ministry of Defense site with precision strikes. Iran's defense ministry said 3 drones were involved in an attack on a military factory. This attack appears to be just one more example in the long-running conflict between Israel and Iran, with Israel using covert actions to target Iran's nuclear program and its conventional weapons capabilities, and Iran arming militias along Israel's borders. Netanyahu said, "I have come back to office to do everything I can to prevent Iran from having nuclear weapons. If the Iranian regime gets a nuclear weapon, they will use it." The likeliest scenario for World War III to erupt in the Middle East begins with Iran continuing to enrich uranium to produce a nuclear weapon. In an effort to protect their self-interest and right to exist, Israel conducts surgical strikes on Iranian facilities involved in the development of nuclear weapons. Little Rocket Man. North Korea has long been a potential catalyst for a catastrophic global conflict, and recent events have only escalated the danger. The rogue state fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles in quick succession, the latest in a series of increasingly provocative weapons tests. This came just as South Korea and the United States launched their latest joint military drills in years, heightening tensions in the region. As North Korea's military and nuclear capabilities grow, Washington and Seoul have bolstered their defenses against potential threats. The joint drills, known as Freedom Shield, are a crucial part of their efforts to counter North Korea's increasing belligerence. However, Pyongyang views these exercises as a direct threat to its sovereignty and has repeatedly warned of overwhelming retaliation. With North Korea's unpredictable leader Kim Jong-un ramping up his military drills and ordering his troops to prepare for a real war, experts fear that the situation could escalate at any moment. As North Korea continues to test its strategic arsenal, the region remains on edge, teetering on the brink of a conflict that could ignite World War III. The world holds its breath, wondering if and when the next provocation will come. Lack of global leadership. The erosion of the once solid international order, coupled with the rise of nationalism and the United States' withdrawal from global leadership, has created a dangerous climate of fragmentation and polarization. Trust between nations is in short supply, and global challenges are going unaddressed. With no shared vision for the future, the risk of conflict and instability is greater than ever before. As countries turn inward and prioritize their own interests, the international community is increasingly fractured. With the United States retreating from its role as a global leader, other nations are jockeying for position and asserting their own agendas. The lack of trust, the failure to address global challenges, and the absence of a shared vision for the future are all increasing the risk of conflict and instability. Whether or not conflicts in Kyiv, Tehran, and Taipei will lead to World War III is impossible to predict. However, what is clear is that these three regions are powder kegs that the world should be watching closely. As we've learned in the past, all it takes is one spark to set everything off. Being prepared for all potential conflicts is not warmongering or paranoia. It's smart policy that will save money and lives and prevent World War III. We can hope that the leaders of the world's great powers will take care over the coming year with the vast stockpiles of weapons that they control. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you want to see more exciting content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. And don't forget to leave a comment below to let us know what you thought of the video. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.